Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op.
Welcome to Photo Op. As promised last episode, we are going to talk about another category of software today, and that category is mobile apps. We have 25 plus mobile apps to bring to your table today. Lots of different categories and a little collection of things that'll make your life easier near the end. So we've got a whole bunch of cool stuff for you today, and we're going to start off with camera apps.
And we are going to be clipping through these at a rapid pace.
Yes,
so don't worry.
This
will
one.
not be as long as the last episode. We promise.
Yeah, exactly. So photography, mobile photography, you need some place to actually, take the photos in the first place or shoot the video in the first place. And we've got a little collection of camera apps. Of course, the first kind of de facto app is just the native camera app on your phone. Some of these are a lot more powerful than you might expect, like mine, for example, and a lot of newer phones these days allow you to shoot RAW in your native camera app, which can come in handy. But in addition to that, I would actually recommend that you install the Google Camera app, which, unless you have a Pixel camera, is actually going to be a separate process. And what I would really recommend for this is a little bit more techy, but you can get really good results because Google's photo processing algorithms are almost second to none. Is I would search your camera model Google Camera. And there's a big community around porting the Google Camera app and adding its special features to particular phone models. And even if you have like a less common phone model, you don't have to have like a Samsung or anything for this. You can have a less common phone and you'll get really interesting results out of Google Camera. So that's one of the longer ones on this list. I know we just said it's going to be rapid fire. That's a longer explanation. For video, I really like Filmic Pro. There's not a whole lot to say about it other than it does a whole bunch of extra fancy video stuff on top of what a native camera app would do. It also will do like LUTs and all sorts of
Give me an
stuff.
example of one fancy thing it can do.
Well, like it'll do just like you would in a professional camera. It'll do stuff like focus peaking and zebra striping.
Oh,
and,
okay, nice.
It'll do LUTs like that you can preview.
If you're an iPhone photographer or doing video, that would be super useful.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's been used for, what was it? I think it was called Tangerine. Like there was a film that was shot on an iPhone a number of years ago. It was shot with Filmic Pro, I believe.
Well, I mean, I bought an external monitor specifically so I could have those features on my DSLR because my Canon didn't have it. Get on it, Canon!
Yeah, so they do a whole lot. They have a whole bunch of cool features. It does cost some money, and they do have an app that you can install separately to make sure that your phone can actually use it because not all phones can. So definitely test it out before you buy, but it is a really cool video app.
Nice.
Moving on, rounding up the last of the true camera apps is Open Camera. This is basically like if you want a slightly more fully featured, this kind of is like everything in the kitchen sink in a camera app. If you can't use Google Camera for some reason, or if you just don't like Google Camera or you don't like your native camera app, this is like the all-rounder that gives you a bunch of different stuff, and it's free and it pretty much works on everything no matter what. So Open Camera is one. Rounding out this list is Adobe Capture, and I didn't know where else to put this in our group of apps today, so I'm putting it here. Adobe Capture is a really interesting thing that lets you like point your phone at a scene and you see a live preview. And what is cool about this in particular for me is you can like tap on the screen and get a color, like an actual RGB color value for for stuff in the scene. And also you can flip it into a mode where it'll actually generate a color palette from what you're looking at. So like a whole set of RGB color values. So Adobe Capture, it's not a true camera app, but since it uses the actual live camera, I put it here. Pretty interesting
That
stuff.
is neat. Yeah. I'll have to give that a try.
Check that out.
All right, so our next category is filters and AI processes. So to top this list is Remini, which is something that we've talked about on a previous episode. It does an amazing job for what it does, but it is a bit jank in using it.
Yeah, so Remini's whole thing is that it will do, well, it's not the whole thing, but one of the big things that it does is this kind of AI upscaling, where you can take a lower resolution image and blow it up really big. And the kind of secret to how it does that is it actually combines other high resolution images that match yours as closely as possible in this like huge composite, basically. So like if you're upscaling somebody's face, it'll look for a nose that looks as close to the original nose as it can find. It'll look for eyes, eyebrows, like hair, all that sort of stuff. It'll try to find a high resolution version of that and then do kind of a composite of all of those things to make something look as close to the original but higher resolution. It's really interesting and cool. I don't think I'd ever personally use it. Like it's just like it's neat. Like it's a neat idea. I tested the app quite a bit. I was a little bit irritated with their upsells into like getting credits and buying new capabilities in the app. I just didn't like the interface. They're doing interesting stuff, but I'm not sure it's for me. So like check that out if you want to test out funky upscaling. But like personally, I'm like it's interesting, but I'm not going to use it
for sure.
Another thing.
All right.
Oh,
what
sorry.
else did?
One more in Filters AI. Another thing that I won't use.
Okay.
Which is PS Camera or Photoshop Camera. Another Adobe one. We've got a whole bunch of Adobe ones here today, and this one is kind of a competition for live filters that you'll see in social media apps. It's got all sorts of weird stuff where you can make yourself look like a painting or change your sky, and you can see these filters in real time as kind of its thing. So if you're really into filters, then
it sounds like the Adobe version of
sure.
Snapchat meets Zoom.
It's kind of Adobe Snapchat, but like without the actual social network part of it. So yeah, if you're into that, there you go. PS Camera. Moving on.
Editors. So my favorite editor is Snapseed. It is free. It has a very easy interface, and it's pretty powerful for what it has. The interface basically looks like a raw editor in that it has blacks, whites, highlights, shadows, that kind of color toning, along with sharpening and exposure and that kind of thing. So it makes it really easy to kind of do the things that you need to do, and you can selectively kind of paint and draw with your finger areas. And I think it even has like auto masking. But yeah, it does a good job. So for a free, quick photo editor, Snapseed, I love it.
Agreed. I have a bunch of different editors on my phone, but Snapseed is so easy to use and so powerful that I end up using it a lot, even with other stuff. So definitely check out Snapseed. It's free. Just try it, right? Like if you don't like it, oh well, it's free. In the not free and or requires Adobe account category is a whole bunch of other stuff. So this is a collection of free and not free, or at least requiring an account. I'm going to start with the kind of Photoshop collection, which is Photoshop Express, Photoshop Fix, and Photoshop Mix, and then Photoshop Sketch. Now Express is kind of the all-rounder. This is basically Adobe trying to bring Photoshop to the mobile world, and it's been around for a little while. It kind of does everything, but not everything super well. For particular extra power, in the case of retouching, you'd want Photoshop Fix, which does actually, in my testing, surprisingly powerful retouching. Like, not necessarily on a phone. Like, you can get away with it on a phone, but if you had Fix on a tablet, you could do some legitimately impressive retouching, especially with a stylus. Photoshop Mix is more for kind of like layout or compositing. Does it do it as well as desktop Photoshop? No, definitely not. And it kind of leans into, again, filters a little bit too much. Fix really feels like it could be a professional tool, and Mix feels a little bit more like a toy. But yeah, that's what they do. If you ever looked at all the Photoshop apps and you're like, what are these things? Express is all arounder, Mix is retouching, or Fix is retouching, Mix is layout compositing, and Sketch is drawing painting.
So Sketch is actually the one of those that I personally use
Mm-hmm.
because for whatever reason, if I just want to, if I take a photo and I want to annotate some notes on it and just draw like a circle and like arrows, whether this is retouching notes or just kind of pointing out something to someone, or there's all kinds of things when I was working in studios that like when we did like real print sheet proofs and the lead photographer would mark it up with a Sharpie and then give it to the editor and do that kind of thing. We use this all the time to kind of annotate things. So that's the only one of the one, even though I have an Adobe account, I use that because it's the easiest way to just open it, pop in a photo, draw the little thing I need to overlay. Because why do I have no apps that can do that?
Yep.
Apparently.
Yeah, Sketch is good for that stuff. The other editor that I use most often is almost certainly Lightroom Mobile. So I basically go back and forth between Snapseed and Lightroom Mobile, depending on my particular needs. It works really well. Like, it's not a replacement for the desktop app, but I do end up using it quite a lot. So similar to Snapseed, it does stuff a little bit differently, but you've got a whole bunch of Lightroom tools. Basically, it doesn't have everything, but it's got a lot for a phone, and the interface works pretty well. So if you want the Lightroom experience, or the Lightroom experience on your phone, then I would check out Lightroom Mobile if you have the Adobe account for
I
it.
will say that you are definitely more familiar with mobile app editors, probably because you have a better phone with a better camera.
That's true. Yeah.
Mine is a potato quality, so I don't edit too much on my phone.
Yeah, and again, I bring a lot of my phone photos actually into desktop editing, which is like what crazy people do. Like, I'm the 1% of phone photographers, but I still do mobile editing quite a bit. And one example of this, which is limited, but I have used it, is Adobe Rush. Now, this is Adobe's video editor for mobile. You see, I'm like hesitant
That's
about it.
Right.
I hesitate to recommend it because it's not very good. I think nobody really does mobile video editing that well. I don't have a whole lot of experience with iMovie. From what I understand, is it's actually pretty good. But Adobe
iMovie
Rush
is pretty good, except
Yeah.
I don't have an iPhone, so there's that problem.
Yeah, so there's that problem. I don't use an iPhone either, but in my limited experience with it, it has been pretty good. Adobe Rush is basically Adobe's, response to mobile video editing, and it'll do stuff. Like, you can cut, you can shift things around, you can
Well,
add some titles.
there was one specific thing that like you even like got on the news or something because you were able to use Adobe Rush.
Correct. So, yeah. So the most notable time that I've used Adobe Rush was when I was literally fleeing a typhoon in Japan. So I went to Japan almost just a year and a half ago or so.
Yeah.
And I was caught in the worst typhoon in like 40 years or something. Of course, I go there for a holiday and I get, blasted with a typhoon. I happen to be staying in like literally the worst hit part of the country. And like the whole city was destroyed. The rail system was destroyed. Like, nobody could get in or out. And I myself and some lovely people from the UK and Canada, and a couple members of my family all escaped due to this lovely hotel owner who drove his van with us, like, at great personal peril through just an area destroyed by the typhoon. And as we were escaping, I took the opportunity to document some of the damage. It was really sad. A lot of people lost their homes. Many people, like, businesses were totally destroyed. Thankfully, there weren't too many deaths. So, like, it wasn't, it could have been a lot worse. But I still documented some of the tragedy as we were able to just barely escape. And because I wanted to I wanted to share some of what was going on because like nobody was getting in and out, right? So I was like, I should let people know what it's like because
Yeah, there
nobody's
were
saying
people
anything.
back home that knew you went there, and then they hear it on the news, and they're like, "Oh
Yeah,
shoot!"
exactly. And so I actually used Rush to cut some clips together that I had shot and posted them online, and then I got a bunch of news attention like, hey, can we use your clips? Can you send us this? Can you send us that? Can you do this? And I was able to use Adobe Rush to cut stuff for them that they particularly wanted to see, and at with very slow data rates because everybody around that area was trying to contact their
Of
families and
course.
stuff. I was able to get some things out, and some of my footage appeared in the news in a few different places that I just shot on my phone and edited in Adobe Rush. So I would like if you need it, you need it, and I was glad that I had it downloaded and ready to go, and I was able to get some
So
stuff
what you're
out of
saying
there.
is we all need to download Adobe Rush for when we're fleeing a typhoon, but otherwise just ignore it.
Sure. If you're really unlucky, then you'll need Adobe Rush in more ways than one. But for that, I can recommend it. If you're fleeing a typhoon, worst in 40 years,
There
then
you
go
go.
for it.
That sounds like it was a very difficult thing. So our next list are things that make your life easier. How about
Yes.
that? How about that? We're getting better at our segues here, folks.
Stay away
Okay.
from typhoons. That'll make your life easier.
So the very first thing at the top of my list is an app called Checklist. Now, here's the thing. There are so many different checklist apps that you'll say like, oh, what's the difference between this and any other thing? There's a lot of checklist apps that their purpose is when you check the thing disappears. And like to-do lists, right?
Yeah.
I'm done with that item. I don't need buy groceries on my list anymore. Checklist, you can set up multiple lists, and you can even set up subcategories for those. So you can nest multiple lists together. And then when you check things, they stay there. So Checklist is the app that I use to make sure everything is in my camera bag for a specific purpose. If I'm doing my triple click booth, I have one list. If I'm doing a boudoir shoot, I have another list. If I'm doing a wedding, I have another list. You see where this is going. I have a list for every type of thing that is not here at the studio where I have all my stuff where I can pick up and go. So I make sure that when I leave, I have everything that I need with me because I don't need everything at every shoot. And the worst thing in the world is to get out there and be like, all right, extra batteries. Where are they? I had them in the charger and oh no. So a memory card, you can go buy a memory card real
That's
quick. A
never
battery,
happened to
you might be
me.
out of luck. So no, this one is really indispensable and highly recommended to make sure
Cool.
that you have all your things. The next one is Adobe Scan, if you have the Adobe Suite. If you do not have the Adobe Suite, I believe this one is free Office Lens.
It is free, yeah.
So both of these do the exact same thing, but they use your phone's camera to scan a document, and then it turns it from a like picture, and it kind of like crops it and like gives it the proper contrast ratios and everything to be a good legible readable scan. So if you do not own a scanner, this is a decent replacement.
Yeah, it's cool. Auto crops. It solves some perspective issues for you automatically. I mean, they'll even do whiteboards and stuff. They're actually quite good. I would just like even when I have a scanner available, sometimes like Adobe Scan or Office Lens are just quicker and
I
easier
literally
to
have a
do
piece
it.
of artwork on my desk right now that I've been meaning to scan, and my scanner is literally right here, and I still haven't done it. So,
Yep,
that happens.
helps in a pinch. Helps in a pinch for sure.
All right, so the next thing on this list is a password manager. So I know I use a password manager for those ones that have really random, like, oh, you must have 19 characters and include, your mother's maiden name in it. I'm like, what? This makes no sense. So I use Padlock, but I'm sure you have options as well.
Yeah, so I just say a password manager in general because right now I use LastPass, and I have some questions about their new ownership. Not that I think that they intend anything bad. It's just like I just don't like when a company is doing something really good and then they sell themselves, and potentially ruin everything. So I hesitate to recommend LastPass, but basically just get a reputable password manager. I don't really care what it is as long as it's a good one. There are quite a few out there, and just pick one that works for you, that you like and is reviewed well. I have pretty much all of my passwords are all individual and fully randomized, which is nuts for somebody like me who, like, I don't
has an account for everything.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't really need to do that, but I just like to do that. I also have physical security keys that lock my password manager as well. So even if you had the master password for my password manager, you couldn't get in because you need my physical security keys as well. So good luck.
The one thing, super secure, locked down over there at Fortress Marlantis.
Yes.
The one thing that I will say about Padlock is they do have cloud support, so that if your hard drive dies, you don't lose all your passwords. That you have to pay for. I use the free version, which is you can back up locally, and it'll make an encrypted backup so that you don't lose all of your stuff in the event of a hard drive failure.
Yep.
But otherwise, it is just local. So if I'm somewhere else, I don't pay for it, out of luck. But, all my passwords, I generally only need them when I'm sitting at my computer. So they're on my computer. There you go.
The other thing that I should say really quick is that if you have a password manager and you are one of the people who has had, unfortunately, had their data leaked through some, hacking on some particular website or business, a lot of password managers detect that now. Plug into those systems that look for those things, and then allow you to change your password basically with one click. Like, it'll log into the site for you and change it for you. So if that happens and you have an account on one of those places, it can be super easy to flip your password to.
As I was logging into Trello, my password manager actually said, "Hey, you need to change your Trello password."
Yep.
Because that's been on that thing. Speaking of which, the next app on our list, Trello. So Trello is a project manager. You have boards, and then you have cards on those boards, and you can shuffle them around. But I have several different boards. I have one for this podcast that so we can keep track of all our different ideas. And if there is an idea that needs multiple stages of effort or research, we can kind of keep track of where that one's at. I have another one for kind of all my just day-to-day things. I have another one that's list of things I need to buy, and I make all of my boards of like, these are the things I need to buy at Costco. These are the things that I need to buy at Home Depot. And it just kind of makes life easier. So when I'm at that place, I don't have to pull up a list of like, oh, here are the 900 things that I need to buy. I can just look at. So it's kind of a project manager that, especially if you're collaborating, but even if just on your own, I have another one that's just for all my social media YouTube things, because some of those I shoot in a single day, and some of them take weeks of shooting and editing before they finally go live. So it just kind of keeps track so nothing falls through the cracks.
Yep. This podcast is literally made with Trello. Trello, if you'd like to reach out for a sponsorship deal, we would be happy.
Hashtag not sponsored, but we are open to it. What do we got next?
So kind of along the same lines, I don't use Trello for this, but I use a good note app to keep track of things that I need to do or buy or whatever. And my note app of choice has bounced around, but generally comes back to OneNote, which is a Microsoft property.
OneNote got me through college.
Yeah, you can use OneNote for free. I used it all through college. I've bounced around on different stuff, but I generally just come back to OneNote. I just understand it really well, and it just kind of fits with my thought processes, and it works really well, and it's generally free. You can get like a paid one through Office 365, but you kind of don't need to. Like, there are free apps for mobile devices and for desktop, and you can do all sorts of fun stuff, take pictures on your phone that get integrated immediately and cross-synced with all of your notebooks, and add stuff, and you can even do sketching with a stylus and stuff like that. It's really cool. So OneNote is awesome.
It seems like the Microsoft alternative to Evernote. I know a lot of people use.
Yeah, I used to use Evernote a ton, and I increasingly got kind of frustrated with them and moved to OneNote and never really looked back. So definitely check it out. It's one of the really good things that Microsoft does, I would say.
There you go. The next one is Solid Explorer. It is a file manager for your phone. because your phone likes to hide things. It's
Mhm.
like, no, you don't really need to know where that thing is. Don't worry, we got you. And then when you try and find it through the interface, and you're like, wait, I just downloaded that photo. Where'd it go? And you can't find it. Well, guess what? Open up File Explorer, and you'll be able to find it.
Yep. Yeah, Solid Explorer. This is an Android-specific one, I believe, unless it has changed recently. Apple,
It sounds like Apple would not want you doing that.
Yeah,
So yeah, that sounds accurate.
I know Apple is like a little bit more friendly to an actual file manager on their platforms now, but for the most part, they don't really want you messing with that too much. And Android, by
Thanks,
contrast,
Apple.
has been cool with it forever. So there's a lot of different file explorers. Solid Explorer is the one that I really like. It works great. I can even plug it into my my server and copy stuff around. It works really well.
Nice.
So you can log into your like Google Drive storage with it. It's really neat to be able to copy things back and forth and on and off your phone with it. So definitely what I use for all of those kind of needs.
Awesome. I think those are kind of all the like productivity type apps. So coming up next, we just generally recommend that if you have some piece of gear that has an app, download that app.
Yep. Yeah, these vary in quality, unfortunately, and like
They do. It's true.
Yeah, like Aperture's apps for like their lights and stuff can be really cool. Where like you can, take a picture of a color and then replicate that on your RGB light. Like stuff like that is really cool. Some of them are less cool or kind of janky, but generally,
Oh yeah, the light I'm using right now, the app does not work at all.
Yeah, I'm using the same light, and the app works for me. It doesn't work for Ben. It's also just not that great of an app in the first place. So, yeah.
But no, if you have a Sony camera and the camera comes with an app because it has built-in Wi-Fi, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Read the effing manual, download the app, and have those things at hand. I have an older GoPro, so I use the GoPro app to live view. I have a drone, so I use the app to live view the drone and be able to look at all of that stuff. We also have some drone apps as well.
Yeah, so along the lines of drone apps, we've got a couple to recommend. So one is AirMap, which you can do a lot of different stuff. Like you can plan flights, you can request clearance, you can kind of like see where people are flying. That's pretty cool for those kind of uses. To help keep you out of hot water, we would recommend before you fly. Yeah, before you fly. You got it. So
I knew exactly what you were gonna say.
Yeah. So that before you fly, is it a great app? No, but it helps you.
It's an
follow the rules.
okay app, but the thing it does is indispensable. So it literally before you take your drone off the ground, open the app before you fly, and it will tell you if you are in restricted airspace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't be one of those YouTubers that flies their drone like
illegally.
An idiot and illegally, and then has a video later where
bad
they're
for the rest.
I'm
of
being
us.
sued by the FAA for $320,000. Like, don't be that guy.
Yeah, you think?
Also, just don't be like a drone asshole in the first place. Just follow the rules. Drones are really cool. Like, don't ruin it for the rest of us, please.
Yeah, don't ruin it for the rest of us.
So there you go. Before you fly, and AirMap as a companion to that.
And whether you are doing normal photography or landscape photography or drones, we have a couple more that could be useful for you. One that I use is Sunboard. So Sunboard is an app that I will use all the time, especially when I'm doing a consultation for a wedding client, because you can look at any location on any date and know exactly where the sun will be at any time. So I can look at the venue and say at 5 p.m. on your date, the sun will be peeking through that window. So that would be a great opportunity if we want to go do a quick sunset shot for a couple of minutes. And then we can kind of build those things into the schedule because we know when the good photo ops are going to happen. It's just, whenever you're going to do any on-location shoot, you generally know, morning, evening, where the sun's going to be, but specifically, will the sun be on the left or right side of that ridge? Is it going to be blocked by something? If you go to that area, you can use the app and find out.
Sweet. So I used to recommend the Photographer's Ephemeris for the same thing, but it's actually not available on the Android store right now. It's in the middle of a rewrite as we record this, and it was really cool. It was neglected for a little while. Apparently, it's not being neglected anymore, but Sunboard sounds like a great alternative in the meantime. For other weather-related things than sun, I would recommend Windy. Now, I used to be a dark sky user, and unfortunately, thanks to an Apple acquisition, they are shutting down Dark Sky and Dark Sky's
Thanks,
API.
Apple.
Yeah, thank you, Apple. Much appreciated. Just stomping all over the goodness for everybody else. So
Tell us how you really feel.
yeah. Well, and thankfully, I'm not alone in this. I'm not there was a large outpouring, especially for their API, because a lot of things use the Dark Sky API, and Apple is being anti-competitive and shutting that down as well. Unfortunately, Windy, which is my recommendation, is not a true replacement for Dark Sky, but it is pretty cool.
Tell us what it does. I'm still in the dark.
I mean, it's basically just a fancy weather app at the end of the day, but it lets you have really fine-grained control over all sorts of layers of information. You can get really accurate, like hyper-local weather reports. It's basically, I mean, Dark Sky, that was Dark Sky's thing, was hyper-local weather, where you could get predictions of what was happening, like almost down to the minute. And Windy doesn't hit that bang on, but it gets pretty close, and in many ways it has a lot of functionality that Dark Sky did not have. So that Windy is now my weather app of choice. Not a perfect replacement, but you take.
But it gets the job done.
Yeah. It's better than the other ones I've looked at least.
So we have 3 final apps here to look at.
Yep.
Exposure Calculator.
Yes, it's literally just called Exposure Calculator.
It does what it says.
That's what it is. Done.
What else you got?
So I have a companion to the GoPro app. If you shoot with GoPros a lot, you'll have the GoPro app by default. But there's a thing recently that GoPro has been doing called GoPro Labs, where they can do all sorts of fun, weird functionality, like turn on my camera at 3:30 a.m. and shoot a time lapse for 15 and a half minutes, and then turn off and then turn back on in 12 hours and look for motion. And then if you feel motion, like if the camera's moved, then shoot a video in 4K wide. Like, it's that kind of crazy programmatic stuff.
Like for birds or something?
For whatever.
Whatever you want to use it for.
Whatever, yeah. So that's all controlled through QR codes that you hold up to your GoPro. The GoPro, like, to the GoPro lens, the GoPro actually reads it through the camera and sets up those particular functions. You can also just use it as like a quick change for your settings. If you have particular settings that you want to use for photo, for video, for time lapse, you can preset them in the QR code. And then instead of trying to go through the menu, like if your GoPro's mounted somewhere, for example, and you like can't get behind it, you just show this QR code to the GoPro and it's ready to go. And the app for that is called QR Control. It just updated to include all the recent GoPro Lab stuff. It seems like they're staying up to date with that. So I can recommend it, QR Control.
Nice. And then we have one last final bonus app for you.
Yeah, so this is the streaming / work from home bonus round. I'm only really mentioning this because I have just been testing it like this past week, and it is awesome. It's called DroidCam OBS, and basically what this does is it allows you to use your Android phone as a camera for OBS wirelessly. Now, you might say, that's gotta suck. Like, the resolution's gotta be terrible. Compression's got to be terrible. It's gonna be laggy.
Your phone camera is probably better than that webcam on your laptop. So.
Yes. And this works fantastically well. I was floored. Like, you can adjust all of... You do have to pay for the extra features and to get rid of a little watermark and stuff, but it's not very much. I think it's a couple bucks. And you can adjust its compression. You can adjust the data rate. You can adjust the resolution. You can choose your front or rear camera on your phone. You can do all sorts of stuff. Like, it's surprisingly powerful. The quality is really good. It has like very, very, like, you can see the lag if you're really, really looking for it, especially if you edit video. But you could definitely use it fully wirelessly as a camera in a video chat, and nobody would notice, and the quality would be much better. So if you've been stuck with a crappy webcam solution working from home because they're all being scalped and sold for like $300, then check out DroidCam OBS. For a couple bucks, you might have a way better camera than what you could buy for 100 times that. So DroidCam OBS.
I really wish that I would have known about that before I paid all this money for webcams.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I felt the same way. Plus, you can do the roving camera thing too. So, like, if you're like working on a workbench and you want to have like two cameras, you want to have your webcam and then you want to have like an overhead cam, you can use this and then in OBS switch back and forth, like as part of a video call or as a stream or whatever. So you can use it just as a second camera, not even the primary camera, and it works great. So
that sounds awesome. And actually, the video that I should be recording tomorrow, I think I'll give that a try.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well worth it. It does have a plugin that you have to install with OBS, but you just go on the website, just Google DroidCam OBS and you'll find it. It's pretty sweet.
Nice.
All right.
Well, that is our episode of all of the most useful mobile apps that you can have as a photographer. We covered camera apps and editing apps and just things that make life nice. So,
as of early 2021. So if you're listening to this in the future and there's some amazing thing or some company bought one of these apps and now it sucks or it sells your data, as of right now,
as of January, it's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, Ben, what are we doing next episode?
What are we doing next time? We have kind of a fun, dumb episode that I am looking forward to nothing more. We are going to do #StopClickbait. By the way, if you want to just in your social media platform of choice, search for Stop Clickbait. Their posts are phenomenal, but we are going to find some of the most topical photography forum news article, question, blog posts, what have you, where they do something really stupid and clickbaity, and in hopefully one-word answers, we're going to answer the clickbait questions. So stay tuned for that. Coming to you next week. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a second and enjoyed this and you liked any of our recommendations, please leave us a rating. The Apple App Store or any podcast app of your choice would be great. And we will see you next time.
Thanks for joining us.
From you next time. Or what happens when you're listening to a thing and then there's a next time.
We'll interact with you on the internet next time.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.